This is a book review of Canteen Kate. Now, Canteen Kate was a character from the 1950s, drawn by the brilliant artist Matt Baker. And this volume collects in its entirety the rare Canteen Kate stories from 1951 to 1953. Now, this book came out in 2013. You should still be able to find copies quite easily. And it's from Canton St Press, predominantly in colour all the way through. You can see its colour there. And I will go through it obviously in a sec, so you can just see that it is colour. And well, let's start right at the beginning, always the best way. Canteen Kate, a very humorous, funny, sort of unusual. She's always getting into problems, also getting her boyfriend generally into problems. They're obviously in Korea or Japan at times, not exactly certain where their location, they bounce around a bit, but it's really quite obviously set in the wartime, and you've got lots of different sort of like Major Herringbone and many other characters, and it's colonels, generals, etc. And it's a real fun sort of story. It was very like 6 pages in each of the magazines. There would be a short story, and the magazine, the Fightin Marines, etc., would have other stories, but this would be one of the shorter stories. And you got there the now, unfortunately, I don't know who the writer was, but St John's Publishing Company. That was they did some great stuff. And if you want to find out more about them, it's a really good book. This one obviously romance, more romance stuff, but it does mention quite a lot about the St John. Archer St John was the person that was running the show, and they unfortunately went bust in the 50s. But this is a superb book. There's not many books. You can get Alter Ego magazine as well, came out with a really good article about St John. That's worth checking out as well. And that's from the tomorrows.com website if you want to find that. So you've got the list of there. You can see it's all like Fightin Marines issue 2. Now, weirdly, right at the bottom, they've got a sort of like a bonus one. There's no bonus material particularly, but there's a bonus one where it's a story that's not Canteen Kate, but it's a prototype. Fightin Marines, issue 15, August 51, whereas the other Fightin Marines issue 2 came out in October 51. How confusing. So the numbering changed. They did that all the time. How confusing. Apparently it was an issue called Texan before that because of, I suppose, postal reasons. I'm not certain. So you've got an introduction by Bob Burden. Mentions, it's quite an interesting little introduction, actually very good and informative about Matt Baker and all the various artwork and collecting various pages and things, but nothing particularly about Canteen Kate. You don't come away from this particularly having any great idea about Canteen Kate, but still, it's an interesting story. Now, I must admit, thoroughly. I would love to see Canteen Kate come back again. They could easily do that. I'm quite, bring that. Why not? It's probably not going to happen. But someone will probably write in the comments, yes, it has. There are new issues of Canteen Kate. Something for maybe Dynamite Comics or something. They could have with Barbarella and all those characters. They put everyone in that one. Red Sonja, Canteen Kate. Why not? Fightin Marines. I love the fact that you've got here Canteen Kate. Just obviously a very little panel. This was obviously a quote first issue. She did have a prototype story before that, and she was always getting herself and her boyfriend in trouble. Various obviously authority figures would sort of cause problems for them because they were doing some escapade, and it would be ridiculously stupid from the start. But of course, they're doing that. It's like Sergeant Bilko kind of thing. They'd always get themselves in trouble at the end, but they'd probably get it out. She would get out of trouble. The poor boyfriend would find himself in the brig. That happened quite a lot. I mean, you think by that time, you think, really? I'm surprised he actually didn't spend the entire war in the brig. Some of the things that they do. But anyway, you've got her there. She's obviously in the canteen. She does the cooking. Though you very rarely actually see her doing much cooking. And when she does, I'm surprised she doesn't poison half of the people. But that's a different issue. And you've got there with her makeshift, obviously keeping herself cool. Obviously, it's very hot. And you've got the boyfriend who does sort of vary in how he looks some of the time. He looks one way and then he looks another. Now, the restoration, the artwork in this, it's not like a Marvel omnibus. So if you come into this thinking it's going to be a Marvel omnibus, well, it's not. I mean, it's still pretty good. It's obviously a really high quality on really nice paper. I mean, this is better paper than you'd ever probably find in real life. You'd look around, you wouldn't get this. So I think this is nice sort of quality paper, and you can't see through it. The gutter, there's no sort of gutter issues, but they're always, like I say, getting themselves in problem, doing something, stealing something without thinking. They're always, but it's still fun. I love it's got there the good old advert for there's not too many of those, but they do still include that. But they've cleaned it up a bit. Obviously, this is been cleaned up, but there's still imperfections all the way through it that you can notice. You got sort of there's a thing where you got the red obviously around his face there, where it's obviously slightly misaligned. Now, obviously, Marvel, if they were doing it, would clean that up and make it really sharp. But it just doesn't matter. I never had a problem with that. This, to me, is a good quality, perfectly reasonable copy. This is in Fightin Marines issue 3, Call to Arms. I love the way she's running along in, obviously badly fitting clothes at that point. She's always doing things with the variety of different, getting the uniforms, and obviously they're wrong size, they're for women, whatever. Loads of things. And it's fun all the way through. I just love the story. It's Canteen Kate, ready, aim, fire. And obviously she's looking after some flowers. So virtually guarantee what's going to happen there. So there's the next story, ready, aim, fire. Just great. And there's some, obviously it was sort of like a cheesecake story style that they seem to, but you got her obviously there washing. Obviously nothing's revealed, but it's you've got obviously the people go, and she's she's back in her uniform in again, and I don't want to show what happens at the end. I don't want to spoil all these stories. I think you're going to absolutely love these stories. I mean, it's not roll out on the floor laughter. Maybe back in the 50s it was. I don't know. I mean, the humour obviously now, you virtually can guess what's going to happen. I mean, you can read the start story. You know that as soon as it mentions something, some food is going to, the general needs, or a cake or something, you know that it's going to be a disaster. So you just, what the end result obviously is finished off in the final page, or a couple of panels, and it's Lieutenants Beware, and you've got a variety of different characters all the way through this. I love the fact that she still only gets a little panel. Obviously, she was a popular character because she gets her own comic in the end. Let's see if I can turn to oh, there it is. So this is the final issue of Fight. You've got the Canteen Kate there with the cover, and then you've got also a text as well. Some of the pages are really very, very nicely quality restoration, really quite superb. But again, like I say, not up to that sort of super, really restored one like Marvel Comics would do. But I have no problem with this. Lots of people do like the original. The only thing it doesn't have, of course, is you don't get the original comic book smell. It's not like, if you get a 50s comic, they always, certainly if they've been stained and browned over the years, they've always got a certain smell that comes from comic books. And obviously this doesn't. Slightly different smell, but it's certainly not the original comic book smell. Maybe they could get a spray they could put into the thing, gives you the original comic book smell. However, luckily they don't do that. But and actually some of them are quite nice in the sense that they're only 1 pages or 2 pages. This one's Scuttlebutt, and that's Bring 'Em Back Alive. Some of them like literally 1 page or 2 pages. And it's another one, Much Ado About Nothing. Oh, mushrooms. Could have been nothing. But mushroom. Again, you know what's going to happen there. I mean, I think you can tell they go out picking for mushrooms. It's not like really rocket science. What's going to happen? So it's great little stories. And or if they go out and they're off to a place that where they found anyway, it's just great all the way through. A fun little story. Very likeable. Now, the weird thing is, this one is the last one. I'm just going to quickly show you that. I don't want to show you all this because I think recommend this book totally. It's one of the books I think you should really look out for because it's lovely little stories. And they don't make these sort of stories like this anymore. And maybe everyone says, no. I love them. So you've got here this one, The Colonel's Daughter. And this is a Leatherneck Jack. I don't know. Obviously, they were called Leathernecks for some reason. Anyway, they've got this is a prototype story. So you've got this one. She looks very similar. Actually, when I first turned this, I didn't read the bottom bit, so I didn't know. I came to this complete. So I'm sorry, I'm spoiled it slightly that there is a little sort of bonus bit at the back with this character. And I thought, and I thought, oh, it's weird, because I must admit I didn't like her as much when she's just in normal clothing. I know, that sounds weird, doesn't it? Than when she's obviously as Canteen Kate. Okay, enough about that. So you've got, but you've got her here as sort of just, and I thought, obviously it looks like her, but it's obviously not. And the humour isn't there either. The humour really wasn't the same. Canteen Kate has got a great sense of humour. I mean, I'm certain that anyone would like I must be totally head over heels in terms of the character. It's just great, sort of like, fun character to be with. So it's, whereas you don't really feel that with this. It's slightly different. And it's still good though. There's nothing wrong with it, but you can see why they changed it and had the sort of fun character there. I mean, just great. You can, that sums it up, I think, that just the whole sort of, just lovely. Just a lovely, lovely story. And I thoroughly enjoyed Canteen Kate. Again, I would love to see, obviously it'd be brilliant if but they probably would never be able to do it as well as back then. There's a certain type of story that you could do back then. Now, probably wouldn't work. So I loved it. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but I think totally recommended.